Today, I'm going to introduce an incredible all-in-one model called Capybara. Why do we call it an all-in-one model? If you check its Hugging Face page, you'll see it supports a variety of tasks: text to video, text to image, image to image video, and image to video. ComfyUI already supports this model, but there is a fatal flaw. If you use the official workflow provided by ComfyUI, you'll probably come to the same conclusion. This model is completely unusable. The reason is that it simply takes way too long to run. I ran an image to video workflow to generate an 81 frame video. And guess how long it took? Over 20 minutes. So is this model entirely useless? Don't worry. I'm going to provide you with an accelerated workflow that boosts the generation speed by more than 10 times. Using this accelerated text to video workflow, I generated the same 81 frames in just over a minute. Hearing this, you probably have a ton of questions. How does the accelerated workflow compare to the original? Is there a massive drop in quality? And how exactly do we build this accelerated workflow? Let's dive right in and experience this all-in-one model together. Since the base architecture of Capybara is identical to Hunyuan Video 1.5, ComfyUI actually uploaded this model to the Hunyuan Video 1.5 repository. You can see that the currently available version of Capybara is v0.1, and it's about 16 gigabytes in size. Once you download the model, just drop it right into the Diffusion Models folder inside your models directory. ComfyUI officially provides workflows for it, but there are only 4. Update your ComfyUI to the latest version. Click on the templates, search for the Capybara model, and you'll see them text to image, image to video, image editing, and video editing. Eagle-eyed viewers might notice there's one missing: the text to video workflow. Don't worry, I'll show you how to set that up in this video too. To make this demonstration easier, I've built all these workflows on Running Hub. Running Hub is an online ComfyUI cloud platform that I use all the time because whenever a new model or extension drops, they are always the first to support it. You can find tons of practical workflows and creative inspiration on their platform. All right, let's break down these 5 workflows one by one. First up is the text to image workflow. The overall setup is basically identical to Hunyuan Video 1.5. First, we load our main model, which is Capybara v0.1. Then we need to load 2 text encoders, the QW2.5VL encoder and the Byte5 encoder. Next, we load the dedicated VA codec for Hunyuan Video. If you are unsure about where to download these models, there's a reference document that clearly lists all the download links and explains exactly where to place them on your local drive. Moving further down, we have the latent generation section. We're also using the Hunyuan Video node here. We set the image width and height to 1024 × 1024. Keep in mind, you can't just set any random resolution here. They have a reference document that you should check for supported sizes. Next is our prompt section, and we set the model shift value to 7.0. Then comes the sampling section, where we use an advanced sampler. Our CFG is set to 6.0. The sampler algorithm is Euler. The scheduler is simple, and we set the sampling steps to 50. Their official documentation actually notes that in their original code, they use 50 steps and a CFG of 4.0. The ComfyUI default is 20 steps and 6.0 CFG. They suggest that to get the best sampling results, you should bump the steps from 20 up to 50, which is why we've set it to 50 here. Let's look at the result after sampling. The image shows a car show scene. How long did it take? Running this workflow took exactly 36 seconds. The overall speed is actually quite acceptable. So for pure image generation, you might not even need the accelerated workflow. However, you'll notice the generated characters aren't perfect. The overall proportions and aesthetics have some issues. So let's see how to set up the accelerated workflow. What you are looking at now is the accelerated text-to-image workflow. The main addition here is a LoRA. This LoRA is also provided by the official ComfyUI team, and you can find it under the Hunyuan Video 1.5 LoRA section. It is originally intended for 480p generation, but in my testing it works perfectly fine for the Capybara model as well. We set its weight to 1.0 because we are using this acceleration LoRA. We drop our CFG down to 1.0 and we drastically reduce the sampling steps from 50 all the way down to 8. The speed boost is exactly what you'd expect. Let's check the result. Interestingly, This output actually looks clearer and a bit more natural than the original unaccelerated version. Next, let's look at image to image, which is essentially the image editing workflow. The overall structure isn't much different from text to image, but here is the key difference. We need to encode the image we want to edit first. Therefore, we have to load an additional vision encoder model, and for this, we use Cyclip. The most crucial node here is where we input our reference image alongside its vision encoded output. We connect it to this node to generate new positive conditions, negative conditions, and latents. Our reference image is a beauty in a long dress, and our prompt asks to change the dress into a white one. Let's check the generated result. It looks pretty good. Now let's test it with the accelerated model. You'll see that there is no noticeable drop in quality. The level of detail and character consistency are both maintained really well. I do need to point out, though, that Capybara's editing capabilities are not as powerful as QWERTY Edit or FireRed Edit. For example, using a test case we've done before, a laptop on a bed, where we prompted to add a person using the laptop Capybara, basically fails to pull off this kind of complex editing task. Moving on to the image to video workflow. We need to provide an image as a reference for the video generation. I added a node here to resize it, but the core node remains the same. The only difference is that we set the length to 81 frames. I set my sampling steps to 30 instead of the recommended 50, because even at 30 steps, this workflow takes a painfully long time to run. Look at this. The runtime was 21 minutes and 57 seconds. Plus, you'll notice that after the image turned into a video, there is an obvious color shift. It looks a bit yellowed. A lot of video generation models suffer from this issue, but the overall motion and dynamic effect of the video are actually fantastic. Let's see how we can drastically cut down this generation time. Once again, we add that LoRA. We drop our sampling steps from 30 down to 8, and now our runtime is just 1 minute and 43 seconds. You'll notice that after adding the LoRA, the color shift issue is effectively fixed. Character consistency is also maintained quite well. The dynamic motion might not be as pronounced as the 30-step version. It's just a simple turnaround, but it still works nicely. Now let's check out video to video. The source video is a beauty dancing, and the background is very clean. My resolution here is 544 by 720. Everything else is basically identical to image to video, but my frame count is 121 frames. Because of this, when I extract frames from the source video, I also extract exactly 121 frames to keep them matched. Look at the prompt. We are changing the girl's white shirt to a blue one. Let's look at the final result. The clothing did change, but strictly speaking, it doesn't really look like a shirt anymore. A bigger issue is that the character's face completely changed. The reference video clearly shows an Asian woman, but the result looks Western, even though I didn't ask to modify the face in the prompt. After reading through their technical report, I realized their editing feature works much better for complete replacements rather than localized tweaks. So let's look at a second workflow, which is also accelerated. The video remains the same, but my prompt is now a full replacement. I want to replace the woman in the video with an Asian character wearing a tight leather outfit. Again, I set the sampling steps to 8. Let's check the result. The overall aesthetic is vastly improved. This shows that complete replacement is much more effective and looks way better than localized editing, even though the background color ended up changing as well. Finally, I'm going to provide you with the workflow that was missing from the official templates, the text-to-video workflow. All you need to do is take the text-to-image workflow and change the length setting to 81 or 121 frames. I'm using the accelerated workflow directly here with 8 sampling steps and a CFG of 1 point. Oh, let's look at the generated result. The visual impact is fantastic. A beautiful scene of a woman holding a glass of red wine with a massive moon in the background. As you can see, the overall quality is basically on par with models like LTX Video or even WAN 2.2. I think that as an all-in-one model, even if Capybara isn't absolutely dominating in every single category, the fact that we can reduce its runtime to a highly usable range makes this model incredibly valuable. Alright, that's all for today. What are you waiting for? Go try it out yourself. Follow me to become someone who truly understands AI.